All right. So we can talk about that.
They introduced it on the floor today, trying to slip it through and asking for unanimous consent, despite all the agita that conservatives have had in trying to talk to Cruz's office and say, no, you don't, please, you don't want to do this. This is bad. Mm-hmm. They're trying to just rush it through.
Jeez Louise. All right. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll do... What else shall we do? We'll do... let's see. What other stuff should we talk about?
We can talk about this.
I talked about your group being called a
hate group.
A hate group.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I could say that it was not exclusively over the life issue, but we were targeted with that pretty clearly. That was one of the things that they mentioned.
Yeah.
We could talk about this bill that is trying to fast track abortion clinics in removing the ability for abortion clinics to
I talked about
2085.
That. Yeah. I've talked about that. Did you get a call from Mary What's-Her-Face from World Magazine about it?
Mary Reichert? I don't think so, not yet, but I should reach out to her. I've spoken with her before.
She talked with me on Friday about the Beverly Hills thing, how they stopped, how they were sort of interfering with DuPont Clinic opening there. And then I told her about AB 2085. She wasn't aware of it. And actually, I need to kind of go down memory lane with you, maybe through one of your old Bill Watch spreadsheets from, I guess, probably from 2022.
Okay.
There was a bill that the state legislature passed that I thought part of it was intending, it was like grant money for establishing abortion clinics, and I thought DuPont was going to be one of the clinics that was going to get the money.
To look
and I thought it was a bill for like pilot program for like LA County, and it was going to fund like 5 abortion clinics or something like that.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that. I'd have to look and see.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything. And we were commenting about how it seemed like the fix was in, that the state was going to use this money to get DuPont started or something like that.
Yeah, I will see if I can find that.
All right. Okay, well, let's do... Okay, well, let's start with the
Cruz.
Let's start with the California. Let's start with the California stuff.
Okay,
and then we'll go to the Cruz bill. We'll start with 2085, and yeah, all right.
This is Right to Life Radio, a production of Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Gerardi.
Well, we're going to skirt by all the explosive local news stories that have been happening this week. Rough week to be a police chief, I guess, in the city of Fresno. We'll just skip by all that. And let's deal with the sort of the issues that are at the heart of this show. We talk about the abortion issue in California and Fresno and throughout the country here on Right to Life Radio. John Gerardi here, Jonathan Keller in studio with us from California Family Council, deemed by the Southern Poverty Law Center to be a wicked, evil... hate group. A hate group.
That's
it's almost
right.
like the Southern Poverty Law Center just labels any mainstream conservative organization that they dislike to be a hate group, just to kind of discredit everything else they do. So we will get to that later in the show. I want to start, though, in California, and with a bill, Jonathan, that you guys at California Family Council have been keeping an eye on. And I think it has a lot of sort of... it's important for us in the San Joaquin Valley, especially for all of our friends fighting the good fight down in Tulare County. Tulare County has been targeted by the abortion industry for a long time. They want to put an abortion clinic there. Tulare County is the most populous county in California that does not have an abortion clinic. There's no abortion clinic between Fresno and Bakersfield. And so Planned Parenthood, other abortion providers see a market opportunity right there in Tulare,
John,
Tulare
this
County.
is just compassionate increase of access. I mean, these are just this is a poor, underserved community just is.
This definitely isn't something about making money, because that's not what Planned Parenthood does. They charge no money for any. Oh wait, they actually do make money. It's almost like that's how the whole thing is set up. Anyway, there have been several instances throughout the state, most notably for us in the San Joaquin Valley, in Visalia and Tulare, cities of Visalia and Tulare, where abortion providers have tried to establish a new abortion business in a given community, and it has been stopped from happening by local pro-life activists.
Right.
Survivors of the abortion Holocaust were sort of very key in bringing public attention and public protest against the establishment of the DuPont clinic, which was billing itself as a, quote, all trimester abortion clinic that was going to be setting up shop in Beverly Hills. Survivors of the abortion Holocaust sort of protested that pretty extensively, and seems to have sort of forestalled it. It seems that there's been interaction with city officials. City officials were getting a little nervous about it. Similar stuff happened in Visalia and in Tulare over attempts by Planned Parenthood to open abortion clinics in those cities. In those cases, Tulare King's Right to Life engaged in protest, wrote to local government officials, made it very clear how vocal their opposition was. And in both those cases, though, the various cases in Tulare County, as well as the instance with the DuPont clinic in Beverly Hills, the ultimate decision not to build the abortion clinic was made by some private actor.
Right.
Not by a municipal government, not a municipal government action. Now, still, in the case of DuPont, there was sort of a slowed down process with Beverly Hills as far as looking at, I think it was certain issues involving zoning and things like that. And basically, the state legislature is spitting mad over this. Planned Parenthood is spitting mad over it. Abortion activists in California, NARAL, are spitting mad over this because anything that would stop abortion clinics from being established must be the most vile, evil, horrible thing on God's green earth.
Motivated by horrible animus. Obviously, John, anybody
It's hate.
Anybody who would oppose these establishment of these women's health centers, they hate women, they hate families, they want women, especially minority women, to be deprived of care and deprived of resources.
What minority women need, it's not racist to say this. It's not racist to say this. What minority women need is more abortions, because that's the only way they can thrive.
Right.
So and there's nothing racist about a white liberal saying that what minority women really need is abortion, not help pursuing their dreams, not help with their education, not anything positive. It's only a negative, because that's what minorities need, allegedly. But we're the racists. So anyway, okay. So in response to this, local activists who, while they have been interacting with local government officials, largely they were influencing private companies not to sell to Planned Parenthood, not to lease to Planned Parenthood, etc. A bill has come before the state legislature that is basically going to try to completely 100% take all decision-making about abortion out of the hands of municipalities. So, Jonathan, why don't you give us the lowdown on AB 2085?
All right, so I will give you the gist of it here. It is in process. It has been introduced into the committees. It's already made its way out of the Assembly, and it is now in the Senate. So it's made its way out of there the first time. And essentially, John, I will read you their kind of innocuous sounding language.
Okay.
That, as it's amended in the Senate, it says planning and zoning law, among other things, authorizes a development proponent to submit an application for a housing development that is subject to streamlined ministerial approval process, not subject to conditional use permit, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Then they basically say CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, it requires you to certify that there's been an impact report. And
right.
There's all these steps of red tape that you normally have to take whenever you're trying to launch a new project. Mm-hmm. And
CEQA, the CEQA thing is going to be the most hilarious part of all this, I think. But anyway, let's keep it going.
Yes. So essentially, it would basically mean that it says this bill would require a local agency within 60 calendar days of receiving an application to approve or deny the permit subject to specified requirements. So in other words, you can't just keep kicking this down the road and punting, which is what a lot of times a lot of local cities or municipalities would say, well, we want to study this more. We want to keep looking at it.
Right. Well, and I think one of the key aspects of this is you're a municipality. You get an application from someone who wants to build an abortion clinic or establish an abortion clinic. What AB 2085 does is it basically says, all right, as long as their application meet these very basic criteria, as long as it gets over this very low bar, you're not destroying a historic building or destroying housing, it's zoned for any of these gazillion purposes, then the city or whatever municipality involved here, their role becomes administrative. It is not elective. It is not decisional. Okay? It becomes basically, as long as the application meets these very basic criteria, the city has to approve the establishment of an abortion clinic. It's no longer something that the city doesn't get to discuss.
Right.
The pros and cons of establishing an abortion clinic. No, it's out of your realm. It's out of your realm of discussion. And in fact, they go so far as to refer to the California state constitution, where the California state constitution has a section where it delineates these are the kinds of things that local governments, municipal governments, city governments, etc. These are the kinds of things that municipal governments are allowed to take an interest in. AB 2085 basically says abortion is outside of the purview of city governments.
Right.
Okay? The state's committed to it as a fundamental right, but city governments, you're not even allowed to discuss it. It's not... All your job is, it's just to be a rubber stamp. When an abortion clinic wants to set up shop, as long as it meets these very basic criteria, boop, you approve it. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Right. And the thing that is interesting, John, I want to read that passage to you specifically, because here's the thing that traditionally, as a small government conservative, and I think if we talk to some of our friends that are in the building or development community, we talk to big-time Right to Life supporters.
Sure.
Richard Spencer.
Okay.
Mike Conway.
Okay.
You know, if you talk to them and you said, hey, guys, just a question, how do you all feel about CEQA?
Yes, let's talk about CEQA.
I think the idea that we have this insane environmental regulation law that has been used for decades to quash development projects, totally legitimate development projects, apartment buildings,
right,
hospitals, schools, grocery stores. The fact that you've been able to use this to get rid of those, I think, has been...
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, is a law that was passed by the California legislature in 1970. Another Ronald Reagan special. And what CEQA, how it has been interpreted, it allows people who aren't, basically a developer is starting a big housing development or something like that, someone who isn't directly involved in it can sue to stop the building project on the claim of environmental harms of some kind or another. So there aren't, I don't know that there are very many other, if any other states that have a law similar to CEQA, but it's a major issue in California not to get too political here. This is Right to Life Radio. This is not, environmental regulation radio, and Right to Life does not take a position on CEQA.
Right.
But CEQA has been cited very often as a reason why it is difficult to build in the state of California.
Right.
So, because basically you're a real estate developer or something, you're starting up a project, you're afraid of like, oh, well, is someone gonna sue to stop this whole project, and then I'm gonna lose I absolutely lose my shirt over this thing. AB 2085 excludes abortion clinics from the mandates from the regulations of CEQA.
And this is the irony, John. If they had just said, hey, this is a CEQA reform thing. We realize that it's difficult for... this is the thing that's so pernicious, John. I want to back up, because on a previous show, this is several weeks ago, I think, we discussed... I had gotten back from that trip to Texas, and I had heard that reporting on true racial disparities in healthcare delivery.
Okay.
We talked about this. If you go on the website, you can go find this. We talked about the fact that it is true in certain parts of both our state and around the country, there are actual racial disparities in healthcare opportunities, especially in the South.
Sure.
It is tragically true, as I heard at this forum that I was at, it's tragically true that especially for a lot of African American people in the former Jim Crow South, in a lot of cases, the only medical clinics that they have experience with are Planned Parenthood clinics, which is heartbreaking and tragic that that's their only experience with that. If this was a flat CEQA reform bill and said, hey, we realize that there are areas in our state where there is a lack of healthcare, and we want to address that. We realize that CEQA has been a barrier, so we're going to say any healthcare clinic, anything.
Yeah, any healthcare clinics excluded.
We want to make sure that, these, like South Fresno, for example, or Tulare County, or Farmersville, or Exeter, or Porterville.
Right.
Madera. We want to make sure that we can get more urgent cares and more community clinics that help families. But, John...
No, it's just abortion clinics.
You read the fine print of this. Let me read you now, not just the summary. Let me just read you a couple of quick lines here from the actual...
the effective part of it.
This is not just the summary, but the actual text. It says under Section 1, subsection A2, the development is for the reason that you're going to get this expedited approval. The development is for a community clinic licensed pursuant to Section 1204 of the Health and Safety Code that provides reproductive health services.
Yeah. So that's all they're... Yeah, that's all they are wanting.
And then it goes on later in the same thing. It says, yada, 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 a clinic that provides reproductive health care services. And then at the very end, John, again, they could have said this as part of the finding of this under Section 3, the bottom of it. They could have said, the legislature finds and declares that all people, no matter their race, gender, socioeconomic status, et cetera, they all have the right to access health care. That could have been what they said in the findings.
Yeah.
But again, that's not even what they said. They say here, Section 3, the legislature finds and declares that reproductive freedom, including the right to abortion and contraception, is a fundamental constitutional right. Oh, John, why is it a fundamental constitutional
because
right?
Because of Proposition 1. Proposition 1. All right, we're going to dig more into this after the break, more on the bizarre way in which all rules get bent for the sake of abortion. That is next on Right to Life Radio.
Hear from you, period. I also just got a call from Rich Bott, period. Thank you both so much for reaching out! Exclamation point, new paragraph. I would love to schedule an interview with you soon, period. Were you thinking today or later this week? Question mark. So, watch WWDC?
Of course I watch Dub Dub.
And?
It's like my third favorite holiday. I thought it was amazing.
So I didn't watch the entire thing yet because I was too busy. I was running around on Monday doing stuff, but I did watch the 18-minute Verge recap, and I have now listened to 2 podcasts that are recapping it.
I am incredibly excited.
What are you most excited about?
The intelligent stuff.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Specifically, being able to actually use Siri in a good way and not have it just be like not know what I'm talking about at all. Having it context aware. One of my big problems with ChatGPT is that it's not aware of me. Whereas
and you
Siri,
don't necessarily want it to be aware of you. Like you don't want to give it all of your contacts.
No. But it would be really nice to have an AI that had all my photos, or at least had the index of all my photos, all my contacts, all my text messages, all my browser history,
it had your location history,
and my location.
That would be very beneficial.
It knows
I agree.
My call history, it knows everything, my music,
100%,
and it just does stuff. I think that's incredibly cool, and the fact that it happens all on device is amazing. I am super excited for Genmoji because I feel like the emojis that I want are never there. I'm excited for just emoji tapbacks, being able to tap back and actually
huge.
do an emoji.
I use Signal for most of my major inter-organizational communication. I have a bunch of Signal groups that I chat on. But in terms of for my family, because everybody is on iPhone,
right?
Julia, me, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, the 6 of us, our little family chat group, we all use iPhones. So being able to have those emoji tapbacks will be great.
Yes. One thing that I didn't think at first, but I've really come to enjoy because I got the beta on my phone.
Oh, you did already?
I did.
Wow.
The control center, being able to put apps. You can put an open app button in Control Center. So I have ChatGPT, I have the Costco app, I have Clock.
Panera?
No, because I just go through the drive-thru.
Oh.
But because Costco, I don't need the app on my home screen. I just want to get to my membership quick.
Gotcha.
So from the lock screen, I can go, bam.
And then show it to them.
Oh,
nice.
Or to start the car, I can just hit that and it takes and because it's Control Center, you can access it from anywhere.
That's handy.
So I go down to my home and I've got my robot vacuum, I have Ring, I have the thermostat, I've got the garage door. And so it's really cool.
Yep.
It's really, really cool.
I'm very excited about it overall. I also will tell you, just a side note, this is going to freak out John. This is tangential, but on the issue of ChatGPT, I have a paid subscription, as you know. The new version that is the workplace one, that I have one that is paid for me, Greg, and Sophia. That allows you to customize your own GPT.
Yeah, I can do custom GPTs.
You can do it, I think, a little bit more. When you do it within the workspace, you can customize a GPT, which then you can share with other members of your team. So you are all working with them. So I have done this one where I have uploaded, I'm still tweaking it, but I uploaded the entirety of CFC's, all the blog posts that we have ever published to our website. So now, if I ask it to write an article, and I say, go back and look at your knowledge and do something on this. So what it will do is now it will tell me, oh yeah, it will refer to past things that we've published. So it has a much more persistent memory of all of the articles, the blogs, the topics that we've talked about. So if I'm asking it to make a argument or give me a draft press release or something, it knows how we've spoken about these issues in the past.
Yeah, you're just grounding it in that data.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the more data we can use to ground things, the better, obviously. And so I think having here's another one, health. I don't necessarily want ChatGPT having all my health data.
I do not either.
I would love for Siri locally to be able to access all my clinical records from the doctors, all my biometric data, all the stuff I'm eating. I would love for it to be able to ask it, hey, how did I do today? Am I hitting my goals? Being able to do that kind of stuff, and then in the future, maybe the fitness app can tailor workouts and look at this
Say,
other
hey, do
stuff.
this.
And it's
Yep.
like there's a lot of really cool possibilities when you ground it in your data locally, so you feel free to share literally everything about you.
Yep. And plus, I think you're sleeping on the most exciting thing that was announced, which is, of course, the iPad calculator.
I love the little yay that they threw in. That was, yeah.
The iPad calculator.
So iPads were released in 2010, and for some reason, even though, like, literally on my phone right here, like, I can swipe down, I have a calculator on my iPhone.
But they never had it on the iPad?
They've never had it.
They for some reason, just have never, ever had a calculator on the iPad. I have no idea why. It's just the most bizarre thing.
So, did you see all the note stuff?
That's the thing. They have it set up now where they've created a calculator for your iPad, but it is a scientific calculator on steroids, where it will take handwriting math and convert it into a graphing calculator. It's hard to explain, but it's really impressive.
No, that's not the crazy part. It takes your handwriting. You can copy your handwriting and paste it. You can start handwriting something, copy typed text, paste it, and it will take that typed text, look at your handwriting,
and convert it into
write it out in your. It's basically creating a dynamic font of your
handwriting. I did see that. That does look pretty cool.
You can copy your stuff in your handwriting and paste it somewhere else.
It is.
That is wild.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool, fun stuff. So. Oh, I didn't realize that this was Bauer Cahan who's doing this bill. It's so crazy to me because Bauer Cahan, who's doing the zoning bill, she is the one, on the good side, she is the one that has been our dogged Democratic ally on the porn bill. Not our ally, but she has been the one who has been supporting the ban on internet pornography or age verification. So.
I'm convinced that's going to go through.
I
Because,
sincerely.
so I have the California DMV app for the digital license.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the pilot program. They have a button now where you can scan a QR code to verify your age.
Oh,
In
okay.
the app, there's a button that says scan QR code, and if you tap that, it's meant to scan a QR code and it'll digitally verify your age.
There you go.
So I'm convinced that they're preparing for that because it's already being built in. Unless they're just going to use it for verifying alcohol buying online or something like that.
I hope that they do both, but that would help it quite a bit.
Well, I mean, once you have the API to verify it, it's easy to,
There's no reason not to.
Right, but there's no reason to build it in unless you have an idea in mind of hey, this is the way the wind is blowing.
Yes. Okay, so do we want to move on? We want to talk about this a little bit more, or do we want to shift to?
Okay, Linda's talking to a gal who's considering
No.
abortion, and we're trying to
Get her connected. That's fine.
Embryo, so,
I just,
yeah.
I didn't want you to be waiting on us. You go ahead.
no,
You just.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I saw you kind
No,
of busy, so
You're good.
No, that's okay.
Did you see in the Vision Pro they're going to be analyzing your 2D photos and creating spatial ones based on that?
So someone was just talking about that on. I was listening to the Verge podcast, which is one of the ones I used to listen to it way back when. I used to listen to it every week. I'm a little more sporadic now, but I usually listen to it when there's a big WWDC or an iPhone release or something. Yes, and they were kind of joking about that, saying, "Oh, this is going to be weird because for a while they've been talking about the whole idea of."
Okay, I listened to the podcast.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Okay.
I haven't listened to the latest one, but I do listen to the Verge. Yeah.
Okay, so for a long time, several years ago, when iPhones started releasing computational photography.
What is the photo? Yeah.
Exactly. So that was the thing they were just talking about on this one, was they were so like you can say what is a photo, and it's like, well, okay, we're just talking about like changing tints and highlights a little bit and everything. And now it's like, well, wait a minute. Now if you're talking about you're literally artificially generating.
So I don't know how they're doing it. I don't think they are using new AI per se, because they have had subject lift for a long time, past like 2 years, where you could press and hold on a photo and lift the subject out and move it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And same thing with background remover. I think they're doing the same thing of saying, hey, we can lift the subject, let's lift the subject, push the background back, and then maybe they're doing a little AI to generate, like, if you look off to the side, maybe it curves it a little bit. But like, I don't think that they're doing, I think they're doing most of their using most of the machine learning that they've already been using for subject lift to create that.
So I can understand that, but even in that case, it's not. I mean, it's dynamically filling in what it thinks your eye would have seen.
However, if you've ever seen any of those spatial videos, you can't really look that far.
Sure.
So I don't.
It's kind of like,
it's not like they're filling
if you
in
have
the complete back of your head.
Well, you know, for a while, like Facebook was doing the thing where if you took a portrait photo on your iPhone, they released this after they came out with the portrait mode on iPhone. If you took a portrait photo on your iPhone and you uploaded it to Facebook, Facebook would let you convert it into like a dynamic, like 3D photo where, like, if you scrolled, it had like that.
Sure, because it has all that.
The depth information.
Sorry,
bonk those.
Just kicking everything.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we've had actual photos. I don't think you can call a digital photo a real photo, in my opinion. I think you want a real photo, you get a piece of film, you expose it to light. That's a real photo.
A photo.
Yes.
So what do you call? Do you call it an image?
Sure. I mean, if you type something in Microsoft Word and save it, is it a paper? No.
Yeah.
No, it's text. It is characters displayed on a display. It's not paper.
That's true.
It's called a paper because it was written on paper.
It's a digital document.
Yeah.
I guess there's just much less volatility because words are words, and words don't have. I mean, I guess theoretically you could say that a handwritten letter if you are a handwriting expert, a handwritten letter potentially has nuanced meaning depending on how it's written, sure, as opposed to a typed document.
Okay, here's a better question. You write out a letter by hand on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You write out a letter by hand on a computer.
Right.
Now, with the upcoming stuff, Notes, for example, is going to take your handwritten stuff and it's going to slightly adjust it to make it more legible. Is that still what you wrote?
That gets into the whole ChatGPT AI thing, because I will again tell you, much to John's chagrin, most of what we've been writing for the last couple months is at least ChatGPT revised.
Sure. No, don't get me wrong. I think ChatGPT and like the Apple Intelligence stuff where it's grammar checking and it's spell checking stuff, I think that's great. Grammarly is just a keylogger on your computer uploading everything you type to their server. So like I support anything that's local and spell check.
Or then there's me, where I started in ChatGPT, then I go upload it into Grammarly.
Well, I mean, if it's a public document, that's one thing.
Yes,
But like installing Grammarly on your computer, where it's just like running 24/7, looking at everything,
Sucking everything up.
You know.
Yeah.
That's where I'm excited, because I used to use Grammarly until I realized
that it's basically
it's all in the cloud.
Any text fields are just
like,
yeah. That's
all the
probably
passwords and bank stuff, and literally everything I've ever typed, they're uploading. That's cool.
Well, that's
and
not
I
great.
looked at their privacy policy, and it's not the greatest. So
Okay,
like,
well that's good to know. Okay, well, all right, maybe I should relook at that again.
Yeah. And then there was another one I found, because I was like, what do they have? I looked up LangTool is another one, and their privacy policy isn't much better. And I was like, well, okay. Guess I just won't use
Grammarly is super duper helpful in that regard for just like the minor stuff.
Without a doubt. Like I said, if you're doing public stuff, or you're typing up a term paper for college, and like it's going to the professor.
It's very very helpful. Yeah.
It's, you know, like
it's like, so I have it installed like for Microsoft Word for example, and in that case it's like, yeah, okay.
But like, yeah, I had it installed like just where it was like looking at every text.
All right.
type.
Okay. Maybe you've convinced me that maybe I shouldn't have it running all the time.
Now, when Apple Intelligence comes out,
Then that'll be super handy.
Be great, because it's running locally.
Yeah, that's true.
So you just gotta wait a little bit longer. That's where I'm at, because none of that stuff is out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I have the beta on my phone, but it's still like dumb Siri and everything. And they said it's going to be enabled in beta during the summer. So like.
Okay.
So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I have Sonoma on my Mac.
Oh, you already even have Sonoma.
Sorry, not Sonoma.
Sequoia.
Sequoia, yes. Yeah. And it's great.
Okay.
I've had zero issues with it so far. Well, it's hard to say if it's an issue with Sequoia, but Xcode has, because I'm also, you also have to use the Xcode beta. I'm making an app.
You are?
I am making an app. So I have tried forever to track what I eat. And I've tried Lose It, I've tried FitPal, I've tried all these different ones. And none of them are, unless it's something from a big chain, it's a pain to type in.
Sure.
Because it's like, if you make homemade tacos, you can't just say
the macros are very difficult.
Correct.
Sure.
So what I started doing was going to ChatGPT, taking a picture of it and saying, give me an estimate of the nutritional value. And it does a pretty decent job. Because like I don't need to be exact. Like I'm not going, this isn't like life or death. I just want an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And ChatGPT does a good job. And I was like, but again, then I have to go look at each one, go into health, add it, look at it, go into health, add it. So I am working on this app where you can take a picture. It uses the OpenAI API key to talk to ChatGPT. It gives it a little prompt. It spits out all the nutritional value, and then the app parses that data, and you can press add to health, and it takes all that data and throws it in the health app.
That would be pretty handy.
Yes. Every single, because there are some apps that do, that claim to do where you take a picture and it tells you what, it helps you figure it out.
Sorry. Just
I haven't found any of them.
Checking my grill.
As long as it's not on fire.
That's what I'm a little worried, because normally it works fine.
Is this the one that has the app? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But I'm trying to figure out. It says that it's not connected to the internet right now, so it makes me wondering: is there like a jam with the hopper? I should have checked it before I left. I checked it, but I didn't clear the hopper before I left, so it is not. Looking to see. Trying to get it. It says that it's connected to Wi-Fi, but it's not letting me. I checked it right before I left, and it was working fine. And I was like, okay, this is great. I'm good. I've done this many, many times, but now I'm a little worried. Like, I don't want either A, the food to get horribly overcooked. It's a tri-tip. I don't want it to get horribly overcooked. Or B, I don't want, like, if for some reason, like, there's a hopper jam or something and it needs to be cleaned out, then we will turn off the fire and we'll just, oh, good, it started. Good. If it's the second one, then I don't want it to be, sitting there off, because it'll say, oh, there's an error, and that it will not turn itself off. The fan will be on, but it will not burn anymore. It'll say there's a jam in the hopper. So now it is telling me that no, it says we've got meat is 116 degrees on its way up. I've got it on a low, slow and low setting.
Speaking of app-based utilities, I got an Ember mug.
Oh yeah, Julia got one of those for Christmas. Not from me, from my brother actually.
Nice. I love tea. I love warm tea. I love tea at night in the evening to wind down. I hate making it. And you think, oh, it's so easy. I don't want to boil the water and like do all this stuff, and I don't want to microwave it. It's so nice to be able to fill it up with the purified water, put a tea bag in, and tell the app, hey, turn it to 130 degrees. And then just like, I get out of the shower, and this mug that had cold water in it just sitting there on the counter is now hot. It's so cool. I'm just like, this is awesome. This is the future. So.
Julia has, it's somewhat similar, where she's got just like she's got the small one. It's not the big one, it's not the travel one.
I have the small one with the little saucer, yeah.
Yep. She has it sitting right next to our, she's got it sitting right next to we've got a little like coffee area with like our little.
Pull up Linda's number on your phone and hand your phone.
Are you there? I'll just text it to you.
Yes. Yeah. She's with my employee over at our building on Fulton Street. So just a little south of
How long have you had an iPhone? When did you get your iPhone?
I did not get my first iPhone, I think, until the iPhone 5.
Okay.
I was not an early adopter. I was, well, first off, I will say this.
Were you BlackBerry?
No. I played around with a BlackBerry for the first time probably in like 98 or 99. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Even though it was just email, I'm like, wow, this is fun. I did not have that, but what I did have, which I got when I was still in high school. It was either high school or my very first year of college.
Was it Palm?
I didn't get a Palm Pilot. I got a Handspring visor.
Okay.
So Handspring was the company that was founded by, former Palm. So I had a Handspring visor.
Cool.
And I had one, like not the original, I had the Pro, and then I got like, I think a second one. I loved that thing. I used that all the time. I remember the first year. Oh, hold on one second. I remember my first semester of college, because I was homeschooled, so I just was, didn't need anything else, but I didn't have enough money. I didn't have a laptop my first semester at college. I think I might have had one by like my second or third semester, but I just had like my big old huge desktop at home. It was our shared family computer.
Sure.
But I didn't get my first like personal laptop until I was probably at least 19, probably. So for that first like year, 2 years, year or two 1 to 3 semesters. I did 3 semesters in Sacramento before I moved down here. So for at least those first few semesters, I had my Handspring, and I had a foldable accordion keyboard. It was actually, I gotta show this to you since we're still waiting on John. this was honestly like, oh yeah, the stowaway keyboard. This was basically
Nice.
So this is the handspring. You can see.
What a time.
Honestly, in some ways I like it better
Sorry,
than today.
I was on hold with one thing, and I was gonna call Linda while I was on hold, so that's why I was trying to borrow your phone. So
That is this little teeny tiny square monochrome screen, because the bottom part of it here, that was the app launcher.
Right.
And then the area there was what you used to write numbers and letters with graffiti. But I would take mine, and then you literally put it here on this little tiny dock, and you had a Target stowaway keyboard, and this entire thing, you pull these little red tabs, and it would, and then the entire thing would fold up into that.
Nice.
It was like that thick. It was like this big, the entire keyboard. So I would throw that in my bag, and I had that in my front pocket, and I would like get into class, and I'd like pop it open, boom, boom, boom.
That's pretty neat.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Like the keyboard, because here's the thing, and in terms of like now you talk to people that are like, oh yeah, I try all these like tips and tricks to like be a monotasker now and everything. Basically, it was a text field with a keyboard.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing a lot of heavy editing on it, but I would type in all my notes and everything, and then when I would plug it into my laptop and my computer, it would synchronize all my text. And then if I'm writing an article, or not an article, what do you call it? An essay or a report or something, I would have all of that stuff available. But like, not getting text messages coming in. I'm not. There's obviously no social media. This is 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. But I honestly loved it. It was like so handy, and it worked so well. Like some days, like if today I had the option, because you can get like small, like little mini keyboards.
Yeah.
But this was practically, because of the fact that it was foldable, it was practically a full-size keyboard.
Right.
Like, I think it was probably as big as this, like you can see.
Yeah.
And even though it was foldable, it was actually like pretty good scissor switch keys. Like, and I'm not someone who types like 200 words a minute that I was like, oh no, I can tell this is like, for someone who's already like a kind of hunt and peck typer, it was like, oh, this is great. So anyway. All that to say, now that I've given my whole spiel.
You'd go back to that again?
Well, partially, yes, but I would definitely try to give like Hudson something like this or something like this. Like, yeah, you can learn to type, you can do stuff like this, but I had one of these first. Then when I moved to Fresno, I got a Windows mobile PC. I had a Dell X5. Like, it was literally Dell for like a hot minute made Windows mobile PDAs. So I had my phone, and then I had my Windows mobile like PDA. I had those all until like 2000. It was like probably for the first like 2 or 3 years I had those, and then they started. No one had them in America that you could buy like through unless you were like a huge corporate client. Like for normal people, like Verizon had them for corporate clients, but I wanted one that I could have, and so I had to basically find one like online that got imported from like Europe that worked with American GSM bands. That there was all these old forums at the time where they were HTC.
Yeah.
Before HTC was like an actual name brand company, they were doing like all this off-label manufacturing just for. There's like a million no-name like Asian knockoffs, and they have all these different ones. So I remember I had like this. Okay, now you're. I'm sorry. Go keep talking, because now I got to see if I can find.
okay,
You ready almost?
yeah, I think so.
Anyway, my whole reason for asking you about the iPhone was because I found on test flight. Did you ever play Tap Tap Revolution? No. So in the early days, like iPhone OS 2, there was an app called Tap Tap Revolution where it's kind of like Guitar Hero, where it's beat based and there's 3 lines and you tap and hold and swipe and with your thumbs. And it was called Tap Tap Revolution. Well, it was bought by some company, shut down. You know how that goes. But on test flight, there is an app called Tap Tap Reloaded that basically somehow they've rebuilt it with like the original songs plus modern songs, and I'm so hyped. So
I will be excited to. Okay, I think I found this isn't the exact.
Let's see what your weird European
the HTC Wizard. I'm pretty sure that's what I have.
Okay, why?
Because it was a Windows mobile phone,
Right.
but it had a slide-out keyboard.
Yeah, everything did at that time.
But you tilt it up, and you could use it as a because I wanted a full-blown keyboard. That was my big thing for me. Was I didn't want just like
That was 2008?
No. This is 2005.
Oh, okay.
Like
Sorry.
this is like 2 years before the iPhone ever
Okay.
even was released. So,
Well, then sure.
all right, I'll keep talking, but here we'll finish recording the show, the actual reason.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Everything okay?
Yeah. Just trying to get this gal over to O'Brien. Okay. Alrighty. Okie doke. Let's go.
Ready?
Yeah. We are back with Right to Life Radio, and we're talking about AB 2085. This is the bill to basically take the whole process, the whole zoning process for approving abortion clinics out of the discretionary control of city councils, out of the discretionary control of any local government entity. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council here with us. It is astonishing to me, Jonathan, how, we've talked about this before, the abortion distortion, so-called. So what is the abortion distortion? The abortion distortion is the concept that basically, as soon as abortion enters into the picture, the way that the left treats it, all otherwise applicable rules, standards, what have you, that govern, basically, that govern us in our country, go out the window. That all the other things we believe, the left believes, it astonishes me that people on the left, people like Raphael Warnock, will sort of, people who are totally fine with the practice of medicine being heavily, minutely regulated.
Yes.
In so many ways, from soup to nuts, unbelievably tightly regulated, that these same people can then sort of turn around and say out of the other side of their mouth, hey, I just think a doctor's office is too small for a doctor, the woman, and the federal government to be inside. I just think a clinic waiting exam room is just too small for the government. And Raphael Warnock says that all the time.
Yes.
He uses this
Doctor's
metaphor
office is
of
too small.
The doctor's office being too small. The doctor's office is not too small for the FDA's regulatory presence to be floating around in there. Not too small for all manner of layers and layers of federal and state and local regulations to be present.
Certainly not too small for the federal government to be forcing the doctor to be offering abortion to these women if you are a religiously based health center. Certainly not too small for the federal government to be peering over your shoulder and saying, hey, you better not be trying to tell them that transgenderism is a mental illness and you should, like,
there's all kinds of things that the practice of medicine is a super heavily regulated thing at the state level, at the federal, at every level. And when we go on and on in California, how important our environmental regulations are for building, how important this is, this, that, the other. But then when it comes to questions like, hey, some abortion clinics weren't able to get established because after people interacted with local politicians and they talked with developers and things like that, it wound up that the owners of those properties decided not to sell to Planned Parenthood. All of a sudden, it's like, no, we got to redo all of our rules just surrounding zoning, city approvals, planning, all that stuff, just for abortion clinics.
Right.
We wipe out all the rules, all of our CEQA rules that govern, that make real estate developers super nervous about starting any project because at any moment some environmentalist can swoop in and sue you for an adverse environmental impact.
And so let me keep John on that note. I want to go back to the thing we said in the last segment. Mm-hmm. This third section.
Of AB 2085.
Yeah. Legislature finds and declares that reproductive freedom, including the right to abortion and contraception, is a fundamental constitutional right. And then it continues. Protecting this right and ensuring access to, again, not general health care services,
but just not reproductive.
Protecting this right and ensuring access to reproductive health services as set forth in this act is a matter of statewide concern and not a municipal affair, as that term is used in Section 5 of Article 9 of the California Constitution.
Right.
So the thing that just is insane to me, John, is that they could have been clever about this. They could have disguised this as a blanket bill, and it probably would have, at minimum, it would have been harder to oppose.
Sure.
It probably would have not even come on our radar to the same degree. If they would have said, look, we're concerned about
the establishment,
healthcare deserts.
Yeah, the establishment of new primary care clinics or of any sort, or nonprofit clinics of any sort.
It's a fundamental concern.
That we're going to get rid of CEQA, we're going to get rid of that. I would have suggested a couple of things for our Obria clinic. There's a couple of things I'd suggest about the way that nonprofit clinics are regulated in the state of California. They could do to make it a lot easier. But no, that's not what they did. It's just for, quote, reproductive health clinics, which, quote, reproductive health in California means usually one thing.
It's just this little tiny, and John, that's the other thing. They note up here and they say reproductive health, as that term is used, it says as set forth in this act. Mm-hmm. So,
which means abortion. It means abortion. Right. It means contraception. Yeah. Because that, and someone might hear that, well, does that reproductive health, does that mean like prenatal care? No, well, maybe it includes prenatal care, but that term in California means abortion services. It means contraceptive services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the abortion distortion. This is a great example of the abortion distortion at work. That it's this precious right, and it's so all-encompassing that we cannot let it be the same. We can't let it be the same kind of thing as the same way of manner of being regulated as, any other kind of medical clinic. No, abortion is so special that we have to do this. All right. When we return, I want to talk with the man himself about California Family Council being deemed a hate group.
A hate group.
By the Southern Poverty Law Center, and how they're basically just trying to put mainstream social conservatives out of the realm of the acceptable. That is next on Right to Life Radio.
Ready?
Sure. We're back with Right to Life Radio, and I'm talking here with a certified hater. Mr. Jonathan Keller from California. No, not a certified player. Definitely not that.
Yeah, don't hate the player. Just hate the game.
No. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council. Jonathan, your organization, California Family Council, has been deemed a hate group.
That's right.
By the Southern Poverty Law Center. And first, I want to ask you how you're sleeping at night, knowing that you're leading this hate-filled group. But I want to get
our first pushback on this from my staff member Greg sent a letter, like we often do, or I shouldn't say a letter. He sent an email to one of the legislators. We said, hey, we got this great new legal memo from our friends at the Heritage Foundation. Greg sent this to one of our assembly members. It's just a form email. He sends the same thing to all of them. He says, hey, I thought assembly member such and such would be interested in this legal memo. He sent it to the chief of staff of this assembly member. The chief of staff just replied with one line, hate groups like yours do not hold any credibility. That was it.
And that's it. Yeah. Was that a Democrat member?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say.
Thankfully, not a Republican member.
I was going to say. Jeez Louise. So, Jonathan, your group has been deemed a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. As you can tell by our tone, we are not taking this that seriously.
No.
But, Jonathan, maybe explain the Southern Poverty Law Center's sort of habit of doing this and how bizarrely unfair it is. So, for those who don't know, Southern Poverty Law Center, first of all, it's kind of like an ACLU type organization.
It used to be a good organization, just like the ACLU.
Yeah, so it's a
historically
nonprofit public interest law firm. And from my understanding, Jonathan, a lot of their work back in the old days was like identifying and combating different kinds of like white supremacist groups.
That's correct.
Yeah.
They used to, in the ye olden days, they actually used to be a great organization that would fight against true racism and true hatred. Like, they essentially had started by defending African Americans who were received. And the reason they called it Southern Poverty Law Center was they specifically focused in the South on people who were too poor to afford legal representation.
Right.
So it was literally the Southern Poverty Law Center. And lately they have become more, as one of my friends, Sam, likes to joke, they are now the Northern Affluence Law Center. Where they're,
given that that's their donor base, that's the crowd they're really playing to.
I mean, essentially, you look tragically because they have this long-term history of respectability, and the SPLC, they've got this logo that is this moniker that is alongside the ACLU. I think a couple of years ago, like during the Black Lives Matter protests and things, if you are a good liberal and you want to be seen as, standing in solidarity. I can't remember if it was George Clooney or someone else. They're like, so-and-so just made a $5 million donation to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah. So that's kind of their deal, though, is nowadays, so they were this kind of good, decent nonprofit organization that was fighting against legitimate racism. Today, though, do they actually do much legal representation anymore? Or it seems as though the most prominent thing they're known for is identifying groups as being, quote, hate groups.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so they've now morphed from being sort of an anti-racist organization to just being kind of just sort of a conventionally left-wing outfit, I would say. Like that seems to be their main thing.
And this is something I think that happens sometimes, John. We, if you go on our website, by the way, californiafamily.org/SPLC, we created a landing page there with our blog. We have a whole article that we wrote about this designation of us as a hate group, and we have some links. I do not want to ever reinvent the wheel when possible, so we linked to some great reports, some in-depth reports from our friends at Alliance Defending Freedom, right there on that page, and also to the Heritage Foundation right there at that page, two of our big allies. And essentially, I'll read you a page here or a sentence here from ADF. They said, the SPLC is a discredited and scandal-ridden group that one of its own employees described as a highly profitable scam, which has been lambasted by progressives as everything that's wrong with liberalism. In the mid-1980s, the SPLC made a conscious choice to become a fear-mongering, money-raising machine, resulting in the resignation of its entire legal department in 1985.
Oh, wow.
So they do not have a great track record in the last 40 years. And it's crazy, John, to think about how what the longevity of an organization who, even if, again, their entire legal department resigns, it shows that 40 years ago, they were already on the way out in terms of a serious legal organization.
Right. So what they seem to be doing, SPLC, is just labeling, yes, they will designate certain groups as hate groups that probably are genuinely hateful
Right.
groups. Okay, the Nazi motorcycle club of Texas, or whatever.
If you go on their website, that's the problem, John. If you go on their website, they do list a lot of bad groups, like
right?
Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam.
Wow, they're going after Louis Farrakhan.
They do go after Louis Farrakhan
for the anti-Semitism stuff.
Yeah, for the anti-Semitism and for
other things,
complaints about he blames Jews for slavery and all these other things. You look at other issues, immigrant justice, economic justice. There are some groups that they fight against that are legitimately bad groups, but then in the middle of that, they throw in all sorts of groups that are just holding to historic biblical Christian values.
Right. And that's the thing I've been laughing about, is that they've been labeling Alliance Defending Freedom, which is so for those who don't understand with Jonathan's organization. So Jonathan's organization, California Family Council, is affiliated with a couple of several other national nonprofits. So Alliance Defending Freedom, which is another sort of nonprofit public interest law firm. It's kind of like ADF is kind of like the ACLU for the good guys in a way. They represent a lot of pro-life clients. They've represented us at Right to Life Central California. So Southern Poverty Law Center has labeled ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom. They've labeled them a hate group. ADF is an incredibly mainstream institution on the right.
Yes.
I would say.
And not just on the right. They have won 14 cases at the United States Supreme Court.
And that's the thing. I think they're calling these groups a hate group, which makes it sound like there's some fly-by-night, like, extremist, lunatic yahoos ready to, drag baseball bats out of the back of their pickup trucks and go, lynch a black person or something. No, ADF is a very successful public interest law firm that has been winning case after case after case at the United States Supreme Court. Yes, they're a Christian affiliated entity, and so they uphold certain Christian beliefs about marriage. They think marriage is between a man and a woman, but they don't believe you should take out baseball bats and beat up gay people. They don't, nor does
CFC,
nor does CFC either. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. What they're doing is taking, and I think this is important for our pro-life listeners that, maybe you're not as animated about the LGBT issue, but I very much see this coming for the abortion cause.
100%.
And it seems like, Jonathan, a little bit more about the groups SPLC designates as hate groups, so I don't know if they're just some purely pro-life groups that they designate that way. Basically what they're doing is just taking, these are mainstream conservative and or Christian viewpoints about marriage. The position on marriage you'd find if you cracked open the Catechism of the Catholic Church, or just basic mainstream Christian belief about marriage up until about 2008 was basically marriage is between one man and one woman. That's it. And SPLC is designating anyone who believed what a majority of California voters believed in 2008 as a hate group.
Right.
And I'm sure they will start similarly designating any pro-life organization probably at some point as a hate group for hateful animus towards women. It's this bizarre thing of sort of like declaring victory while a battle is ongoing.
Yes.
In the case of your organization, I guess, they're it seems like they're labeling you. What did they say is specifically? Did SPLC give some sort of explainer for California Family Council for why you're a hate group?
Not exclusively for us. We were listed on a list alongside a group of our colleagues and allies from around the country.
Okay. So a variety of family policy councils.
Correct.
Your sister organizations in this state or that state.
A couple of other states. And then, of course, the big thing that is funny, they report, we tracked over the last 2 years, we've seen an increase of, over 100 new these horrible state-based or these horrible hate groups across
Right.
the country. What they don't tell you if you read the fine print is that they essentially designated, they inflated that number by adding all 100 local Moms for Liberty chapters as hate groups. That's a hate group, John. I don't know if you knew
The
that.
Moms
but
for Liberty, okay.
Fighting to protect your children from like obscene material in their classrooms.
Oh, that's what the Moms for Liberty.
That's
Okay,
a hate group.
So all 100 of them they all got swept in all at once.
Correct.
Well, and that's the thing. Their press release about designating California Family Council and others as a hate group, SPLC said, there's an alarming increase in the number of that. These groups always have just existed for a long time.
We've been here, just doing our thing.
You, Southern Poverty Law Center, just started designating them all as hate groups.
Right.
It's not like these groups didn't exist before. It's not like there's a rise in hateful activity or something like that.
Right.
Well, and it's also that I guess I just want to focus on this word hate. I don't think you really hate. I don't think you really hate much of anybody.
No,
I guess it's.
I would argue that as an explicitly Christian organization at California Family Council, we actually are commanded to love our enemies, like even people that we disagree with.
Right.
It's kind of a cardinal thing that Jesus told us to do.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean. They're just taking this thing that's an ongoing contested political question.
Mm-hmm.
We have this institution of marriage. It has these certain privileges and legal obligations and duties and privileges that are attached to it. What kinds of relationships should this be attached to?
Right.
And the idea that the answer that we've held on to for 10 years is the obvious only right one, and anyone who disagrees with that contention is hateful.
That's right.
That their only motive is outright hatred of gay people.
Correct.
Seems bizarre. And I feel as though, should we ever get to a point where like a Roe v. Wade is back on the books effectively, they're going to start treating those of us who believe in and uphold the right to life as being, I think, similarly situated to you.
Correct.
I can very much see a future where the only, because that's the assumption, that's the rhetorical cudgel they hit us with, is that the only thing animating pro-lifers is hatred of women, is antagonism towards women. It's being a misogynist. So I'm watching this closely. I'm glad, Jonathan, that you and your organization has fought back against this designation. You're leaning into, honestly, it almost reminds me of, a little bit, it's reminding me of Donald Trump getting convicted and then raising like $140 million. I'm wondering if I'm hoping that you guys get a similar, similar good outcome.
I will say, if anybody wants to go to there, go to californiafamily.org/SPLC, read the article, and then chip in a few bucks there at the button at the top.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and if you prophylactically want to stop California Right to Life of Central California from being named a hate group, rtlcc.org.
That's right.
But yeah, I find this designation ridiculous, and it's basic. California Family Council is no more right wing than, I don't know, the ACLU is left wing. I mean, the idea that you guys or ADF or FRC are extremists, fringe, dangerous, right wing radicals. I mean, you guys are pretty. I mean, you're more strongly pro-life than anyone else, than a lot of other people I know. But the idea that you're these extremists is ridiculous. All right, when we return, we're going to briefly blast Senator Ted Cruz for his stupid IVF bill. That is next on Right to Life Radio.
I was wondering if you forgot that there's one more segment.
I know. Well, yeah. We've done a lot of shows and a lot of segments on IVF.
Did we technically only do 3 segments today?
We have done 3 segments so far.
Okay, I didn't know if we did 2 segments or if we did 3 segments.
No,
We've done 3. Okay,
right.
so we're about to do the last one.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Senator Ted Cruz from Texas and Senator Katie Britt from Alabama have introduced their idiotic piece of legislation.
Just getting right to the point.
Just getting right to the point. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council with us. the hateful Jonathan
That's
Keller.
me.
Just burning with hate. I've always said, of all my friends, the person who's angriest and least cheerful and most
That's me.
hateful is Jonathan Keller. If anyone's a hater, it's me. I'm so much grumpier than you are. Anyway, so
The Bert and Ernie.
it's the Bert and Ernie dynamic
Right to Life
here
Radio.
of Right to Life Radio. There we go. Jonathan, Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Katie Britt have introduced this bill to guarantee a federal statutory right that was completely not at risk for people to get IVF. Because even though, all these Republican politicians are all of a sudden so unsure whether, the federal government can regulate abortion, is it really a federal issue? Oh, we got to be sure we're maintaining the boundaries between what's the federal government's responsibility and the state government's responsibility. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, we don't mind advocating. Apparently, it's very clear in the Constitution that there's a federal right to IVF that Congress can vindicate.
Apparently.
So, yeah, there's no pesky questions about the
John,
9th Amendment.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna give you in our couple seconds here. I'm gonna read you 3 quick statements from Ted Cruz. I'm gonna read you one from Patty Murray.
Okay.
And this is the only time that I will tell you I agree with Patty Murray over Ted Cruz.
All right.
Ted Cruz says, first off, IVF is a medical miracle.
It's not a medical miracle. Okay.
Number 2, I'm a strong supporter of IVF. Number 3, to the best of my knowledge, all 100 senators in this body support IVF. This is the line, though, that remarkably,
You agree with Patty Murray?
Eric Niffen, our friend online, said, not often I see Democratic senators paraphrasing Robbie George, but, quote, Democratic super pro-abortion senator from Washington State, Patty Murray, look, the stone-cold reality is that you cannot protect IVF and champion fetal personhood.
That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. See you next time on Power Talk. Gosh, I need to see